Yo, YouTube fam, what's good? Make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe, all the things. Share this with your friends because it makes the world a better place. This entire episode with Amanda Bucci is incredible. If you are a people pleaser, this will help you a ton, and stay through the end because Amanda is vulnerable and courageous enough to walk through a fear or walk through a belief that she has, and I appreciate it. It's amazing. Well, Amanda, how in the hell are you? Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here and talk to you and connect with your people.
And what is interesting? So I actually had this idea that I've never done with anyone before. You down to do it?
I'm down. I'm open.
Okay, perfect. So do you have your chat window open? And then for people listening slash
Yes.
watching, I'll tell you what is happening. Um,
Okay,
so
great.
so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna chat you a word. And
Okay,
so as soon as you see this word, just tell me the words slash feelings that are coming into your awareness.
cool.
Just
Sounds
keep
good.
just keep doing it. And then once I type it in, I'll tell everybody when I send. All right, here we go.
Great. Hmm. Energy was the first word that came to mind.
Mm. Just so everyone knows, I typed in fear.
Like tight energy, contracted energy, scattered energy, black energy.
Mm.
Yeah.
What else? So that's interesting. Is there any, I guess those are feelings. Are there like any feelings that are associated with it?
Other feelings that are associated with it. Whenever I go into fear, I go into what I call my shutdown mode.
Mm.
So it's a lot of just numbness and contracted, and it's a protection mechanism that my
Mm-hmm.
body so beautifully created to keep me emotionally safe.
Well, and what's interesting is like I noticed like exactly what you described is what I noticed in you.
Mm,
Like immediately, which as you know is like completely normal, right? Like is just
totally.
like emotionally. So, and like I told you before, is I was really like I've always wanted to like collaborate with you. And so when I was like studying and like hella studying, I was like, man, she really talks a lot about fear. And so I was just interested to one, do this little exercise to see like what came up and then
Mm,
ask you like what is your relationship with fear?
yeah, that's such a great question. Interesting. It's,
No,
it's
just jumping in. Let's
I
do it.
know, yeah, just jumping in. Casual small
Mm-hmm.
talk questions.
Yeah.
I did not
Mm-hmm.
expect any small talk questions from you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like it's interesting because what my perception is, what I think people think about me is that I move through the world with minimal fear because I have done things that most people would find
Yep.
terrifying or
Mm-hmm.
would have a relationship with actions I've taken or positions I've been in as something scary. But everyone, as you know, relates to fear differently. And some things that are terrifying for some people aren't terrifying for other people.
Very true.
For me, emotions aren't usually terrifying. There's
Mm-hmm.
specific places in which my own fear can create a response, which is like I told you, my shutdown mode. And
Mm-hmm.
there's specific places that can happen. And I've also come to learn about myself as a human organism and just have learned, and I'm always learning how my psyche is formed from the very beginning to understand my relationship and responses to my environment and to people and to things. And it's really interesting. Adrian and I actually have similar, our mutual friend Adrian, We both talked about emotions are fine, but physical pain is like terrifying.
I remember she's told me
Um,
that before.
which is funny, but yeah, I
It
think
is
that like
funny.
my general relationship to it is actually that I feel it pretty regularly. But I've built a connection to it in which I am actively learning how to navigate those sensations in my body when they come up, and I welcome it with understanding and curiosity, even if I recognize my body is having other automatic responses that are happening to keep the fear at bay. But I think one of the coolest things has been learning just that
Mhm.
there's automatic things that happen, and each person has different relationships to their environment or to stimulus or to emotions or to pain or to death or to connection or to any of these things. So it's interesting to understand everybody's fear template and to understand your own, really. And I feel like when you can build a relationship and understand your own, you're better able to navigate it. But yeah, it's interesting how regularly it comes up in life.
Yeah. When does it usually pop up? Like, when was the last time you felt it? Today, yesterday?
This morning, immediately. Yeah.
This
Well, I'm
morning?
interesting. I since COVID, I've had an interesting relationship with driving.
Hmm.
It's been new, and it's
Just
kind of
driving a
it
car.
driving a car. I feel like I'm escaping death when I'm switching lanes. It's new. I
Interesting.
feel like I need some EMDR or something, but
Okay.
it's very new. I had something similar happen 3 years ago when I was skiing, and I skied semi regularly as a kid, and I just felt like I was gonna die. So
Hmm.
there's like a few places, whether it's like I'll probably never jump out of a plane. There's like some sort of adrenaline type of like big fear of pain and like
Hmm.
accidents and that kind of thing, like physical accidents where my body would be in a lot of physical pain.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's
And
really interesting.
so this morning you were driving?
Yeah, my friend was driving.
Oh,
I've been
so
getting
any
driving
driving.
anxiety.
So not even just you driving, it's like you're in a car.
Yeah, yeah, and it's only been like 4 months of my life that's been a thing,
Hmm.
which is really interesting.
That is interesting. We could
Yeah.
go into that, but we won't right now. Um,
Great.
but it's like for you, when you said earlier, like what you think is like your perception of people looking, from outward in, of thinking like, oh, like Amanda, like this had like so easy or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, but like I assume like for you, like so much has happened so quickly
Yeah.
that, like people wish they had that. People wish that it happened
Mm.
so quickly, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah.
Um,
Good
like,
point.
but like I want to hear, of course, there's like, there's amazing money and there's like other awesome things. What has been like the downside of like things happening so quickly?
Yeah, that's a great question in terms of the acceleration or the speed of success in a
Mm-hmm.
sense, because there's energetically there's got to be balance in some capacity. So if things accelerate very very quickly, your my nervous system needed to really adjust to that.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's not kind of like iterative jumps or um, jumps that you can ground yourself into the new level, then there will be a compensation pattern, which is absolutely something that occurred for me. And in terms of like the emotional experience I've had from that, it's been just fascinating. Like I can't even describe it as just wonderful, because there's also been so much challenge as a result of the speed of everything. In terms of a core piece of it for me has been being young and being
Yeah.
living in Los Angeles with a bunch of people who are most of the community out here in the entrepreneurial space is
Mm-hmm.
in their early to mid to late 30s, and I'm in my mid to late 20s,
Yeah.
and things happened really quick for me. So the speed at which I felt as though I needed to become an authority and have my shit together and just be someone that had their shit together and like knew what they were doing, psychologically created a lot of difficulty for me, and just imposter syndrome and things along those lines. I had this whole process with me wanting to move into writing my book this year, which I'm in the middle of writing.
Cool.
And I had to process a lot of feeling alone, because it felt like the story that I had was, you know, when that phrase where people say, I remember when I had my first beer, I felt like I had that, not that anybody was telling me that, but it felt as though my friends could say, I remember when I wrote my first book or made my first million, which is an interesting thought. Nobody did that, obviously. Everyone's very wonderful and loving and supportive, but that was my fear that came up, of either not being special or not being, it was this interesting ego battle of like a deep ego deflation and then an ego inflation, where I felt as though I needed to be recognized as special, but also felt not special at all at the same time.
I love that so much. Thank you for sharing. Like,
Yeah.
Like I meant it's interesting because I'm not sure if this is the right phrase, but I think a lot of people, and I would love to hear what your thoughts are on this. I think where you are is, and like how you speak even about business and other things, it doesn't hit for some people because it's almost like too far ahead. Do you feel that?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. I feel like I'm regularly a little bit, not even a little bit, like quite a lot further along than a lot of people in my audience, just because of who I was when I started my social media journey was like 20 people ago, or 50, you know, and internally for myself. So that's another layer, or another like life cycle of acceleration and speed. And this is something I read about in my book too. It's all about how social media is a mechanism for conscious awakening.
Oh, I love that.
So in my journey, in my experience, I started my social media platform as a fitness influencer who was 21, who had no personal development experience, very little like real life experience, very little childhood trauma, like big eventful trauma. Like we all have our stuff, but nothing in particular that was like that bad thing happened to me. And then I formed this pattern because of it. It was more subtle, nuanced life, just regular life.
Me too.
Interesting. And I think a lot of people have that obviously as well, where, you know, there's layers of privilege and just like good upbringings, which is beautiful, but interesting because there was so much that I didn't know about how to navigate life. So getting online, it felt like the version of me that started on Instagram and on YouTube was very pure and like so different from who I am now. And I built a very large audience very quick. I gained 100,000 YouTube subscribers in 6 months when I was 22.
Hella quick.
When I was 22, which I didn't even know who I was at that point. So the amount of eyeballs on me really, really quickly created an awareness of, this is what people think of me. And then I am aware of myself so much more regularly. Like I am aware of my identity. I'm aware of how other people are perceiving who I am. I am aware of my voice tonality and the things that I'm saying and the things that I care about. And I think that really catalyzed a sense of self, but also attachment to ego, or an attachment to some sort of identity form. And the thing that people talk to me about the most in terms of how I've maybe helped them is the amount of pivots that I've made, and the amount of public transformations that I have had in terms of, I was a fitness influencer who was making 5 videos a week that were all 30 minutes each, talking about my life and my fitness journey. And I wasn't dating anybody. And I was just like in my own little bubble of these people. And then I totally pivoted into the business coaching space, and I learned digital marketing, and I learned sales and enrollment. And like my revenue tripled from 225,000 to 750 in 1 year.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Crazy. Wonderful, but also I didn't know how to run a business. Like my shit was fucked up underneath, you know, like the foundation of the business that's what I mean about the jumps. It's like anything that's not grounded in the foundation is going to crack. So just putting out fires in terms of like learning how to really operate and run a business of that size and serve those amount of clients and all that stuff. And then I started having my own spiritual awakening 2.5 years ago or so. So not too long ago, but the speed of it has been so accelerated. It feels like I've looked at so many parts of my shadow that I've never looked at before, my ego, different parts of myself. I've taken a spiritual psychology 2-year program and done multiple psychedelic journeys every other month for the last 2 years, and have just been like really deep in it, and in this way where it felt like I needed to, because I needed to learn how to navigate the intensity of it all.
Yeah.
But also because there was this other part that I was a leader and teaching and educating, and there were people that were watching my transition. But it's an interesting thing with social media where there's a sense of like, okay, I have to talk about this now because it's what's happening in my life and that's what's relevant for me, and that's how social media works. And how do I recreate and reformat my business and my brand for what's relevant for me when it's changing so rapidly all the time?
Mm.
So I've had to ground in a couple of different things, like just spiritual support in a sense, where just getting grounded in like, this just has been my path and this is important for me as a soul to have these experiences, to lead this amount of people. Like a huge part of me feels as though I amassed the size audience that I did, not because people wanted to learn about fitness from me, but because I was eventually going to be teaching a lot of these other higher consciousness healing transformation concepts that a lot of people needed to hear. So I built a big fitness audience, and like that was just going to be a part of my soul's journey on this earth. So it's been a lot of grounding in like my own spiritual path in life, and recognizing that the speed of things is probably important in some capacity for the world.
Uh-huh.
I don't know,
I love that. Amanda, have you, like, when you were a kid, did you ever feel like special? Do you know what I mean by that? Like, does that hit home for you? Like, did you feel like you had a bigger purpose?
I don't know if I would say bigger purpose.
Mm,
I would say I knew I was smart.
mm,
Um, like I got good grades in school, and I knew I was smart, but I actually, and I was very creative as a kid. Along the way between middle school and high school, I remember having a story that I didn't have the creative side of my brain, and I was like, I just have the other side. But that was a whole conditioning story of like, I used to love singing, but I did a graded singing test in middle school that I got like a C on. So then you don't do things that you're not that great at when
mm-hmm.
you're in high school anymore. You just quit them and then you go do things that you're good at. So all of these, funny ways in which I contorted myself to then going to nursing school. So I went to nursing school and I was like, this is my thing, I guess. But until I actually moved out to California, I didn't have a feeling that I would go do something greater. So not
Mm.
necessarily. Maybe as a kid, and I knew I was smart, but I didn't have like a sense of what I would go do in the world.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I asked because just because obviously, like you said, like the speed, or because it isn't like, you just wonder, right? Because how it happened so quickly. Of course, like, you were doing something right, and good timing and all that, but still there's just so
Yeah,
many other people doing it. And kind of going back a bit,
yeah,
when you said, when you're writing your book, is that coming out in 2021?
yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah.
So um this is really fascinating. So because I know a lot of people can probably relate to this, how you said, like, you really want to be special and significant, but
Mm-hmm.
then your fear is almost, you like, compensate for it. So
Yeah,
can you just go deeper into that? Because that was
yeah,
interesting.
100%. Yeah, 100%. It was super interesting. And I'll tell you the way that I got out of it too. But
Amazing.
yeah, there was two feelings happening, and like I said, deflated ego and inflated ego. The deflated ego, my story was that everybody in the personal development space is basically writing the same content, but just in a different way.
Mm.
So the story was like, I don't have anything unique to share, or and I really resonate with like self-expression and uniqueness and authenticity.
And how long ago
Um,
was this? Were you having this feeling when you were writing?
about a year ago.
Okay, cool.
It was right before I started writing the book. It was before I felt ready to start the writing process.
Mm.
Um, I have a lot of friends that are in the middle of writing books. And again, like I said, the position I was in was like, I was in this group of like really high level people that are doing high level things, and they're all like amazing people, and I love them. But it's
Mm-hmm.
interesting the way that I formed my relationship with the entrepreneurial community, and like my first mentor in the business coaching space is Lewis Howes, and I joined his mastermind, and I didn't know anything about masterminds, but I joined it in 2017. And it's interesting, Lewis is an amazing connector, and he does everything very big. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
how can you do this 3 times bigger? Which is, I now see how that psychologically impacted my perception of needing to go bigger. And I feel as though it did create a lot of awesome choices for, I'm going to do events, I'm going to do this big
Mm-hmm.
podcast, I'm going to do this big thing. And it's interesting because I always felt as though I was like trying to be in the bigness of it all, when
Mm-hmm.
I feel like my natural kind of way of being is a little bit more subtle.
Mm.
And it's almost like the bigness has like gone like this, and then externally things have kind of pendulumed back into like where maybe my most natural energy is, which is like beautiful and radiant and big, but not in this like I'm a big person way. Does that make
Mm.
sense?
Yeah, for sure. Like, yeah, you don't have to like have 20,000 people at an event or something.
Totally,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah, like something like that. And for a while, my question for myself was, is that me playing small, or is that me in fear, or
Yeah.
is that just natural, or is that like my natural essence? So in terms of like the deflated ego with the book, I was like, maybe I'm just not that special.
Mm.
And like I wanted my idea to be, and over here I thought my idea for my book was like so fucking awesome, and I was like,
Mm.
no one has a book like this, and I think it's so special. But all of my friends are writing books and they have special ideas. So the story was like, no one's gonna really see my specialness, but
Mm.
I also don't think I'm that special. So it was interesting the way that I got out of it. I was processing this in my spiritual psychology program,
Cool.
and somebody asked a really awesome question. I forget the exact question, but the essence of the answer was essentially, it's not about taking credit for the idea, or pretending the idea isn't even something worthy. And I think that like in philosophy and stuff, there's a lot of different ideologies where it's like everyone is nobody, or
Mm.
it's almost like you are nobody or you are everybody. Like
Yeah.
like you are all of the gods all wrapped up in one, and just you are God and you are consciousness, or
Mhm.
you are a speck on the blip of nothingness in the
Yeah.
universe and you are nobody.
We're
So
both.
we're both. So I was feeling that, and then the way through was to recognize that it is both, and that your human vessel, like you can take credit for the work that you've done to become the human being in the human vessel that has the life experiences and integrated lessons to receive the ideas that you now have and that you are putting forth into the world.
I love that. And that
Yeah.
actually has something to do with, so my spiritual mentor, like I'm building a sales page. So I'm doing, in 2021, I'm doing a year-long thing for men.
Dope. That's awesome.
Um, and so anyway, like when I was doing the sales page or whatever, like I've never had like a coach, because for me, I haven't like, like felt the need to, like, I know what
Yeah.
you're going to say. Like I feel it. But anyway, I finally came across this like spirituality like totally just like woo, like people would say like a year ago, Ben would be like, what are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
And, but anyway, I like this, like when building a sales page, cause it's kind of the same mindset concept is what does the creator or what does source want to create through you?
Yeah, 100%.
And I love that because instead of like, again, like using my ego or just like thinking all the time, just only thinking
Mm-hmm.
of like going into that space of like channeling, and
Yeah,
everyone can do that.
totally.
And that's
Totally.
inspiration, intuition, all the things.
Yeah. And like your ego or even like your human can take credit for which felt really nice because it was like the specialness piece, but
Mm,
it felt like it resolved that, but not from a place of ego, from a place of like, oh yeah, I am a person with willpower and work ethic and capability, and I feel my own resourcefulness because I have done the work to get to this point
mm,
to be able to receive this type of book concept to the point where I am the person to bring it forth.
dope.
Yeah, which
I
felt
love that.
awesome.
Yeah. And then I'm curious because, you mentioned like Lewis and like the personal development aspect. I'm curious, how have you evolved beyond or meshed with, or how have you noticed the maybe downsides of like personal development? Like, I'm just curious of like how
Totally.
that's like played into your life now.
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I mean, so it's interesting. We always have to look at the context of the person coming into the personal development world or into their own journey of self understanding. So the context of me was most of my life was in the light, right?
Mm,
So I never had much of a mirror for my darkness,
cool.
um, or really darkness in general. So had it not been for a few things, specifically my partner who has gone through quite a lot of darkness and a lot of trauma, um, along with everything that's happened in 2020, Black Lives Matter movement, the COVID stuff, the conspiracy stuff, and just the shadow work of the year,
Yeah.
Um, and then even my business has been a catalyst for looking at my own shadows.
I love it.
The personal development world could have easily taken me into the love and light kind of category.
Yep.
Um, Also, because of my entry point into it, which felt like it really needed to be in the spiritual realm and the transpersonal realm, um, it could have been very easy for me to get wrapped up in that and that alone and made it my only language.
Yeah.
So eh, because of the people in my life and the mirrors that I've had, and especially because uh, I have a lot of people looking at me regularly, it's felt important for me to learn other languages and to learn the language of trauma and the language of just like humans who suffer that don't even use all of the jargon, and just
Yeah.
be able to like go all the way deep into all of the layers, the behavioral realm, the mindset. I think about this all the time, the emotional
Hmm.
processing and emotional regulation, and I'm in a trauma life coach certification now, so I'm learning about just different like emotional regulation tools and the nervous system and
That's
things
so
like
cool.
that, which is awesome. And then the subconscious and patterning and conditioning and history, and then the spiritual realm, which has more of like maybe past life stuff happening where a lot of other things that could be going on for you aren't of this world
Hmm.
potentially, and then coming all the way back up out of that depth because sometimes it can, wherever you're at on that little scale, top or all the way on the bottom, you can get stuck in one
Yeah.
of those. So I've definitely found myself stuck at each layer where I was
Mm.
like, okay, mindset's the thing, okay, emotions are the thing, okay, spiritual stuff is the
Yeah.
thing, okay, trauma's the thing, and then now I've kind of come back all the way up to the top where I'm like, I can just discipline myself to change my behaviors too,
I
you
love
know
that. How, since you, I mean, I love how you just like the languages, like how you said, like speak different languages and like learning and just diving into all these things. How similar are all of them? Are they saying the same thing in a different way?
Pretty much. In a sense, I think the only downfall of only having one language is that that language can feel like the only right thing and other people are wrong.
Yes.
So it can
Yes.
create just the separation that we're all feeling is like,
Mm-hmm.
this is the way it is. Like, ego versus authentic self is the thing. And then some people, just in the personal development space on Instagram, there's a lot of differentiation happening in the different therapy communities and the
Yeah.
spiritual communities. And there are people that are like, this isn't the thing, this is the thing, or
All the time. Yeah.
all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
it's actually really helpful because you learn
Mm-hmm.
that there's so many different ways to say the same thing. And I think as personal development leaders, it's important to know what a lot of those different modalities are, eh, or just as a person, just for the sake of really not getting too wrapped up into one way, which can lead to ego identification and separation and danger in some capacity and distrust of
Of other. Interesting.
other
Yeah.
just other people
Of the other.
of the other.
What has been like a big what the hell? And why I ask this is because in 2020, or March, I mean, my life has shifted a ton, but a big thing happened in March. And then I thought,
Mm.
2020 has done its thing. And then like right now is just another huge, like, whoa, like I can't believe I'm feeling and doing this and shifting in this. So I'm curious for you, what has been the most recent, just like, whoa, I can't believe this is happening again, like right now.
That's a good question. I feel like, yeah, I'm trying to like grab onto one of them. I feel like it's been so constant.
For
I
real.
Yeah, I feel like there's definitely been some bigger life cycles of things, and I think one of the core things, which I always find so interesting, but more recently, um it's always so interesting when you find a huge blind spot in your psyche. You're like, oh wow, I feel like I
Mm-hmm.
had a really good understanding of who I am and what my psyche does, and then you're like, no, I don't.
Yes.
So so for me, I've been going through some things in my relationship in particular that have
Mm-hmm.
mirrored back to me parts of myself that were really unconscious, and just parts of my psyche that were just so in the shadow that I couldn't see or hadn't seen. And I've been reviewing the life cycle of my relationship and my entire life and who I am. And it felt like an ego death in a way, but
Mm.
also just like a reevaluation of the entirety of my being.
Wow. That's a,
Yeah,
yeah,
just
just, just
little audit,
reevaluating. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's, I feel like when you get into personal development work and you start to look into your shadows and unconscious stuff, it can become super interesting when you recognize a part of you that, and then you are able to go into the personal responsibility of it all and be like, okay, yeah, that's there, and watch my ego fight with me. I was really
Mm.
fighting with my ego, and my ego really wanted to be right and really wanted to be in the right and didn't want to be wrong and didn't want to have to really reconcile or do the work around what if this was really true about me, and then
Oh.
if then what do I do about that, or like how can I just allow myself to be okay with that.
Mm. I want to ask you, I mean, what that was. Like what, like
Yeah,
the truth, because I think that's such a big thing of, is that true?
yeah, is that really true? Yeah.
Do you feel
So
comfortable sharing just like that small portion?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So the part of me that I was looking at was this part that has oriented myself to myself more than I have other people,
Hmm.
in a way where my core wounding is around people pleasing.
I was going
So
to
I'm an
ask you about that, so I'm glad it
people
came out
pleasing.
naturally.
Yeah. Uh, so Enneagram 9, which
Hmm.
is the peacemaker. I'm in a relationship with an Enneagram 8 who is a challenger. So it's direct opposites, which has been perfect shadow work for me. Because any kind of personality test or Enneagram in particular, it can be very easy to just be like, oh yeah, my core driver in life is peace and harmony. So if I can just have that, everything will be okay. When you're with someone or with other people who mirror back to you the exact opposite of that, which is diving directly into conflict, diving directly into which like loving respectful conflict in a really healthy way, but conflict nonetheless, it challenges your view of who you are. So it's like any personality test has the version of you that has been formed based on your whole environment. And then you become identified with these traits or attributes of like introversion or peacefulness or whatever. And you're like, yeah, that's me. And then everybody in your life forms around that.
Yes.
But I think my partner, we came together and it felt like such a cosmic kind of connection in this way where we're such mirrors for each other, in a way where my like the core thing has been being able to have a clear voice and be direct and know who I am and what I want, and to lean into conflict where most of my life I avoided it. And then the truth that I came to this time around was this recognition of the core wounding of people pleasing. The way that my spiritual awakening went about was a recognition that I chameleon or have chameleoned to people around me to create identity of like, Ben's the fear guy, and like I'm gonna hang out with Ben and he likes fear, so I'm gonna talk about fear. Or like as a middle schooler, I was like, this girl's emo, so I'm gonna be emo. And I hung out with some like rebellious friends, but I was always the good girl, and I was like, they're the rebellious one, but I don't resonate, or I dissociate from that part of myself, but I get it from that person. So when that awakening happened, I was like, oh shit, I don't really have a sense of self. Like I don't have a grounded sense of who I am. So I swung in this direction of, okay, no more self-abandoning. Let's go all the way into Amanda and like ground myself in who I am. So my orientation to my life for the last couple of years has been very like me focused, and I've struggled to create room for like an equal amount of focus on my partner, because like, for example, if I go into shutdown mode, like he's got to relent and hold space for me because I just can't, kind of thing.
And then you're shutting down because you don't like want to speak, like because obviously, right, for fear of like
hurting him
him.
The fear is my authentic self being wrong.
Boom. I love you. Okay, keep going.
Yeah. So if I speak my truth and it's hurtful for somebody else, it's wrong. So that's like the core of the people pleaser, which is like you disconnect from who you are because it feels wrong in some capacity. So you just formulate yourself towards everybody else. So in my healing, I'm like, okay, I'm going to be me and speak my truth. But oftentimes I would like sublimate or hide things because of the fear of being authentic and just true, for fear of hurting or being wrong.
Will you repeat
it's really
that?
Interesting.
Man, I mean,
yes.
You're right. I mean, you're not just chameleoning me right now. You're being you. But will you repeat that again right now? Because I want to write that down.
Yeah. So
like authentic. So your fear was my authentic self is wrong.
Yeah. So the fear is my authentic self-expression is fundamentally incorrect. And I will hide my authentic self by finding a sense of self in other people that pleases them, makes them feel comfortable, so I don't have to make anyone else uncomfortable, so I don't have to really feel my own discomfort with my authentic expression.
Yeah. I love this.
I
So,
know. It's good.
and it's
Good
like,
stuff.
it's the greatest stuff in the world.
I know.
Seriously, I'm a nerd for this so much.
Me too.
Um, do you mind? Are you comfortable? I know you've already kind of done work on this. Are you cool if we dive deeper into that?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's do it.
Um, so have you figured out like the root of that? So, I mean, that's
Mhm.
what I love is because most people don't know so that's your core like fear or belief, right? So how I kind of view it is like your thoughts are kind of leaves on a tree, the branches are feelings, the root is your behavior, and then the roots are your beliefs.
Mm,
Um, and so like your thoughts, most people just actually, I don't want to say most people are aware of their thoughts, but
totally.
that's how
Top of
I like
mind.
to track it, right? Is like, okay, this thought, like I don't want to, like, I'm having a conflict with my partner. Why am I afraid to be in this? That's like the kind of up top
Yeah.
thought, right? And then, you've done the deep work to like, the belief is like my authentic self expression is fundamentally incorrect.
Hmm.
Um, do you know what caused that or
Yeah.
formed that?
So I had one experience. Do you know who Maston Kipp is?
Yes.
Yeah, he's great. I'm in his trauma life coach program, but
Cool.
we did a VIP day because I was really feeling like I was called to work with him and understand his process. And
Cool.
we did some inner child regression work based on somatic body feeling.
Amazing.
And I was in this 2-year spiritual psychology program, and we did a couple of healing of memory meditations. And whenever I would go into the memory part, I would catch myself at a thread in my memory, and then it would just kind of cut off.
Mm.
So going back into childhood and gathering those memories, because were generally uneventful, has been difficult. So I
Mm.
spent most of my time not fully knowing. But that one time with Maston, it probably took like 30 minutes to be like, all right, I'm feeling loneliness. Okay, where do you feel it in your body? I don't know. He's like, just say the first thing that comes to mind. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know, my neck. Like, just
Mm.
this process went on for like 30 minutes, and then we got to this memory of me being a 2-year-old in the crib with my twin sister. So I have a twin, which I do think has created a lot of my own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we did this whole process where he was having me unravel the memory. And this is like not a memory that you remember generally at all. Like I have no memory
Mm-hmm.
of this memory, but here it is happening in my brain somehow. Where
Mm.
my sister and I were two in the crib arguing about something. We were both crying. I was upset with her,
Yeah.
and she was upset with me. And then my mom comes in and she picks me up, and we're twins, so she's got to pick one of us up first.
Mm-hmm.
And then I look over my mom's shoulder, and my sister's still in the crib crying, and I think she had like peed and pooped her pants or something. And I
Mm-hmm.
felt I formed a belief that there's only enough love for one of us, and if I get that love, then it's hurtful to her, but I'm also angry at her.
Man, I love this so much. Keep going.
Yeah. So the formation of my psyche around that, if that's the one memory or if that's a general sense, I don't actually know. um, but the formation of that created this sense of my authentic expression is hurtful to
Yeah, and
somebody
you're
else.
like you suck no matter what, right? Like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Damned if I do, damned if I don't. So my
Mm-hmm.
protection mechanism is like, I just won't be me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dang, thanks for sharing that. That's dope.
totally. Yeah.
So so when you address that memory, yeah, take a deep breath.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
have you, so so that's great that we have this memory, right? And like for me, I remember when I first started learning about this stuff, I'm like, cool, like I feel like you understand where this comes from, but that's still for some people it might switch it, just some level of awareness. But how have you been able to like work into that or like massage that and like unravel that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's been been a lot of practice. I observe myself semi-regularly feeling a feeling, and sometimes it's like it can be like a judgmental thought or like an emotion that feels, and like my partner and I, we've like we know the webs and the whole
Mhm.
network of trauma that both of us have. So the awareness of that is like, okay, I know that this could be hurtful for him in this way if I express this thought or this feeling. So I now notice my psyche like putting it over here, or like maybe I don't have to share that one,
Yeah.
um or I'll share it but I'll like deflect, or I'll sublimate, or I'll what's the word for it? I'll backpedal, or like
You won't be direct.
I won't be like, yeah, I won't be like super direct or clear
Hmm.
about like the gravity of maybe the feeling or
Yeah.
the clarity of it, and I'll kind of like put fluff around it.
Hmm.
So my practice has been be honest
Cool.
and like trust him or trust anybody to hold my honesty, and like trust that I can create emotional resilience and integrity in my body to not shut down around it. So it's been like this practice of slowly but surely doing the thing that feels fearful, or that
Yes.
feels really difficult, that my body literally, like I watch my body go
Yeah.
like this,
What you
like
said at the beginning, yeah, like the curl and the
contract.
contract, the
Yeah, exactly.
blackness. Yeah.
Exactly. So instead of that, my practice is like
Open.
open,
I love how you said it was
keep it
open.
open. Like keeping my heart open has been a practice for
Mm,
me, in terms of like, can I keep my heart open in this moment? And um I'm sure you've heard of this too, where just like if you do a heart opening meditation, for example, oftentimes people have a lot of difficulty just standing directly in front of somebody without doing anything with their
yeah,
body to like protect their physical
that's
heart.
crazy.
It's so interesting, the body language of
Hmm.
that. So it's, for me, it's a lot of like physical body integrity and like keeping my body open as much as I can to kind of create that somatic first um transformation in my physical self to my psychological self, and then working this psychological emotional back end of it all as well, and really creating a sense of safety inside of my body for myself. So it's a lot of like nervous
Mm,
system flexibility, Maston would call it, as
cool. I
instead
like
of
that.
nervous system rigidity. So it's just creating more and more flexibility with my ability to hold the difficult thing.
That's so cool. I love that.
Yeah.
Um, when you were talking about honesty, like I wanted to ask, is there anything right now, just like on your heart that you just like, it doesn't even have to make sense, but just that you want to
Yeah.
be honest about, like speak your truth?
Yeah. There's let me see. There's a feeling of just like yeah, just like righteousness, I guess, in terms of how I feel like I've shown up. My truth feels like, and the righteousness, and this could be ego, and this is me putting fluff around it as well.
Yes, I
Here
love
we
it.
are. It's I feel like I've done the best with what I've had. So I crave to feel justified or validated in that.
Dang, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. I was trying to not put fluff around it the second time.
I love it.
Let
That's
me just be
awesome.
direct.
Yeah, I received that. That's so cool. How do you feel about, so with that belief, can we walk through 5 quick steps?
Yeah, let's do it.
Thank you for doing this. I've never been able to do this like with someone, so this is fun. Like
That's
on
awesome.
like my podcast.
That's awesome. I love it.
Um, so this, so I think this will be really beneficial for you because you've already done, I mean, this is beneficial for everyone, but for you, you've already done deep work. And so why I'm prefacing this is because for people, I want to bring this out because I've been thinking of more ways, just like, how can I like help people? And
Mm,
so literally these 5 steps are what I have found to be the most beneficial,
Yeah.
simplified. Um,
Awesome.
so with this belief that you have of like my authentic self-expression is fundamentally incorrect, with that like that experience, like what caused that. So what I ask myself is, if I were thinking this, and in the macro, as we're doing right now, or in the micro moments when you're with John, your partner, like feeling that like, like curling up, like, oh, I can't speak this, because we know that like, okay, Ma, this is where this is coming from. Like a huge belief, that's huge belief, like just, you are fundamentally incorrect. Like no matter what you do, it's just like not enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just really simple. All I ask is like, is this true? And you can only reply yes or no.
Okay.
So
I
is
like
that
that.
true that your self-expression is fundamentally incorrect?
No,
No. Can you feel that? Or are you just logically saying it?
I can feel it.
Cool. So I can feel that you feel it. Most people will probably be like, yeah, I know the answer
Right.
you want. But to even build on top of that is because our brain thinks in absolutes. And so to counteract it, we also have to think in absolutes, like,
Mm.
because this belief is no fluff. There's no fluff around this belief.
Right.
Like, even though you're adding fluff in other scenarios, your deep core belief is that like my authentic self is wrong and fundamentally incorrect, period.
Right.
Like there's no wiggle room. Like it's just like
Right.
I suck,
Right.
and so of course you're gonna feel like that's so heavy. And I think that goes back to like when you said fear, like in your body language changed with just that word, of like where this comes from. And so when your brain thinks in just absolutes, that's why I say you can only say yes or no, because your brain is thinking like this is absolutely correct. So it's yes or
Mm-hmm.
no. Like, is this 100% fundamentally proven? Is this like in the record books, like true? No, it's not.
Yeah.
So next question is, when you think like believing my authentic self-expression is fundamentally incorrect, does that benefit you?
No.
No, it's shitty. Right.
Very true.
Um, so what's another possibility? Like what's another scenario instead of you being fundamentally incorrect? What's an alternative?
An alternative is
And you could even go back to like that moment in the crib.
right. Yeah. That my authentic expression is perfect the way it is.
I love that.
Even if someone has an emotional relation to it, like a like a relationship to my expression that is difficult or negative for them.
Mm. So what do you want to believe
I
instead of
want,
that?
yeah, I want to believe that my authentic expression is the best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Awesome, perfect, wonderful.
Mm-hmm. I love this. What else?
Yeah.
Like what scares you to say? Like if you could like reprogram Amanda right now from the womb, what would you like program into you?
Mm,
Like ask like you've never asked before, basically. Like if it wasn't wrong or scary.
yeah. I what I want to say is your authentic expression makes everybody happy.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Dang, I got chills. That's cool. So what we just did very quickly is my authentic expression makes everyone happy. Ooh, I'm getting chills right now. Compared to my authentic expression is fundamentally incorrect.
Yeah.
What is that like the feeling? How different does that feel?
It feels like the opposite.
One's probably lighter, not as scary.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for doing that because that,
Yeah.
as an example for everyone, how do
Yeah.
you feel right now? Thanks for doing that.
No, that was really cool. I loved that process. It was awesome.
Cool. And it's like,
Yeah.
because now so why I do that is because now you have a mantra or an
Mm-hmm.
invocation or affirmation,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it, of each time you feel that feeling, you can just say, like, no, my self expression makes everyone happy,
Yeah.
especially to the people that love you, especially like John. You know, like, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure he's told you a million times,
Totally.
you know,
Yeah. 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 That's really helpful. I'm going to absolutely be using that 100%.
dang, that was cool. I'm stoked on that.
That was awesome. Hell
Thanks
yeah.
for sharing that. Like, I love how you came just like that you already had that like story slash belief.
Yeah. 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 This is great timing as I have
Mm.
built really awesome awareness around it. And it was awesome to be able to see it in your process too, with the questions that you asked to really bring out the story and the information and the answers and the reprogramming. It was dope. It was awesome. That was fun. That was fun for me. I'm nerdy with it
Cool.
too. So
Okay,
it's
cool. I
cool.
love that. Well, dang, I mean, I feel fulfilled for sure.
Me too.
But
Very
what else?
fulfilling.
Very fulfilling. And like, I appreciate you, Amanda. And like, for real, like, I'm gonna look at you in the eye and tell you this, but that like your authentic expression really does make people happy, and like for real. And I know you've seen it, and probably at the times things have happened most easily. I mean, you know, like I'm telling you things you already know, but it doesn't hurt to help to hear it.
Tears.
Hmm. For real though,
Thank you. Yeah.
like you're dope as hell. Like for real, like I'm actually getting chills. Like, and I
Mm,
think you were why I asked about the whole special thing when you were a kid, because
yeah.
I feel that from you. I mean, you obviously do have a greater purpose, um, and you are impacting people. So yourself and just you does make people happy.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that. I feel like that's actually my purpose. And I have come to learn. There was a really awesome question I would love to share with you that I learned at my
Yes,
spiritual
please.
psychology program that you're going to fucking love. The the two questions were, what challenge did you take human embodiment to learn through? Which is essentially, what is the particular challenge or theme of your life that your soul came here to learn through? And mine was self-abandonment.
Mm.
And then the other question was, what gift did you take embodiment to share? And then mine was self-expression.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
And they are two sides of the same coin. So
Yeah.
they are essentially the same thing, just the complement of each other.
And that I love. Thank you for sharing that. That's so cool. Like,
It's a dope question. Yeah.
yeah, because that is like really the essence, like the crux of life. To
Mm-hmm.
me, like your most important thing to do to be is also like your greatest like fear or resistance. Like they're like you said, that's like the same.
It's the same. Yeah. It
And
is the same
and
thing.
it's the same. And to me, that's why I love, seriously, I love fear because
Mm-hmm.
I do it like a compass. Like it's literally just like, boom, this is what I should do because this is like the most me that I already am, but I've just fluffed around or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. That's so true. I love that.
Dang. All right,
Hell yeah.
Amanda, is there, is there anything else on your heart that you want to share?
Just
Slash soul.
appreciation for you. I really, I loved, I loved your conversational process, whatever the podcast. Like, I really
Good.
appreciated how you were so intentional about walking through the inner world and really pulling the correct things out into the surface. And you're very intuitive and tapped into, you were very tapped into what was really happening in my inner world. So I just really feel seen, and I appreciate you so much. It was really wonderful.
Thank you. I received that.
Yeah.
And you're welcome. All right. Well, let's just end it there because that was incredible.
Great. Dope.
All right. Thanks for watching this video. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, and any other YouTube things. You know the deal. You know what to do. So thank you so very much for being here, and watch one of these videos on the screen. Woo, woo, woo. Watch these videos. Love you so much.